The bam, we're live. The episode I noticed yesterday, the episode from December 24th in the morning. Do you remember at the very end? I'm like, okay, let's do one more thing, and we showed that footage of you could barely tell, but it was two guys fighting. Someone was filming it outside their car. It was an old man
Oh,
defending himself.
right.
Dude, last night after the show I was telling Hiller about it. I was like, hey, do you think someone reported me? He said for sure. But you can go on
Seriously?
YouTube and type in like fights and see fights that are 1,000 times more graphic than the fight we showed.
We were talking about there's a square in the area. I think it's like it's not in the country that we're in, but in some place people get deployed to. And there's like, oh, it's called. They had some name for it. Come to find out, they do like public executions there. And
Oh
so,
my good. Oh my
but like you can
goodness.
pull that stuff up on YouTube and like current day stuff. And I was like, how is that stuff not getting pulled down off YouTube? But you're gonna get flagged on a show that's significantly less dramatic, I guess.
And it's crazy. It's crazy that basically it's like Gestapo shit. Basically, people can just report you. Like, hey, the Jews live there.
Yeah, it's bizarre.
Man. Chase Bryan, Morning Savages, back to working in the snow. What do you do? In the snow. Ooh, God, that's cold. God, that sounds cold. For all the people working outside now, man. I think it's cold. I wonder how cold it is at my house right now. I went to the beach yesterday. 48. Oh, it's going to rain today. I wonder what time that's going to happen. I want to take the boys to the skate park today for sure.
It's been raining all day here.
It has?
Mm-hmm.
Is that normal for where you're at?
I think in the winter, yeah.
Yeah, it says it's going to rain here all the way to all week. Oh, that's awesome. We can always use the rain in California. Always, always, always. Let it rain, baby. I'm so excited about this show.
Me too.
You don't even have any kids yet. Yet. Here we go. Rod, good morning, brother.
Good morning. How are you?
I was just so excited about technology. I'm always like poo-pooing technology and talking about how dumb some of the technology we have is. And then this morning I was like, wow, this random dude who that I've never met before meets another random dude. That's me. And we can just reach out to each other. I can reach out to you on a social media platform and just be like, hey, can I meet you? And you're like, yeah.
Yeah. It's amazing how it connects everybody, right?
Oh, it's so cool. It's like you and I. What state are you in?
I'm in California.
Where in California?
San Bernardino, so Southern California.
Okay, I'm in Santa Cruz, so I'm 300 miles north of you.
Yeah, I've been. I'm from the Bay Area actually, so I've been to Santa Cruz quite a few times.
Where were you born?
Richmond. Oh, I was born in Oakland, raised in Richmond.
At the Children's Hospital in Oakland?
No, Kaiser.
Oh, okay. I was born at the Children's Hospital. Crazy.
Yeah.
In Oakland. Wow. And then did you grow up in Richmond?
Yeah, I grew up in Richmond till probably the 10th grade in high school, and then I moved to Antioch for a couple years before I went to college.
Wow. Did you go to Antioch High?
No, I went to Deer Valley. It was brand new when I got there.
And in Richmond, what school did you go to?
De Anza High School.
Wow, holy shit. My parents I was born in Oakland and then I lived in El Cerrito.
Okay.
And then when my parents divorced, I ended up moving to Pacheco. Do you know where that is?
Yes.
Right next to Martinez.
Yep.
Yeah, crazy. Fascinating. Richmond. It was kind of interesting. And then when I was 16, my mom kicked me out of the house, and my dad moved. My dad owned these 2 fourplexes on San Pablo. He got them like on foreclosure, where the rent was like $25 a month to live in an apartment there on San Pablo. This is like in the 80s. and they were crazy. I'm 50. How old are you?
I'm 39.
They're not. I don't know if you remember, but San Pablo. I mean, Richmond was definitely pretty nuts. But when I moved into this neighborhood on San Pablo, it was like a 70s movie. Like there were the dudes with the fedoras and the feather and the two Rottweilers, and he would have the line of the prostitutes up on San Pablo. It was
San Pablo,
wild shit.
That is San Pablo. Yeah.
It was crazy.
San Pablo and Richmond, and then MacArthur and Oakland. That is definitely what you would have saw around that time for sure.
Yeah, I watched that whole neighborhood there change. When I moved into that neighborhood, it was completely different than 15 or 20 years after. They put in 4th Street down there. Have you seen that?
No.
4th Street, where the Apple store is, and in Berkeley. Oh, it's crazy. All that shit back there, what they did, it's pretty cool. It's pretty cool. Yeah. It's pretty darn cool. I guess some people would consider gentrification, and I know that has a negative term, but the neighborhood definitely got significantly safer. It was freaky for a while.
Yeah. When I was coming up in Richmond, it was bad for sure.
Yeah, it was like Richmond and Oakland. I mean, obviously there were a lot of cities that can claim this, but it was like Richmond and Oakland were like these murder capitals of the country.
Yeah.
And then wedged right between them was, Berkeley, home of the educated Jew, and it was like, wow, it's crazy.
Yeah, it was an interesting little sandwich, right?
Yeah, for sure. And fascinating to me growing up. So then I would always commute over the hill to College Park. That was the school across from DVC. That was the high school over there.
Yep. I went to DVC for football, and then I transferred from there. So yeah.
No,
I had some friends that played at College Park. Yeah.
Wow, what a small world. Yeah, that's I did a year and a half at DVC, and then I went to and then I did another 7 years of undergrad at UC Santa Barbara, if that's what you want to call it. This is Caleb. Caleb runs the back end. Occasionally he talks. Caleb is in the U.S. military. He's deployed overseas in an undisclosed location.
All right.
Caleb, and hopefully after this conversation, Caleb will want to have kids. We won't have scared him.
I hope not.
Thank you for your contribution. I think that I think the number one thing that's bad for kids in the world is being born, but that's something that, the leading cause of death of children is the fact that they're born. It's the leading cause of death for all people, as a matter of fact. And then of course, after that, I think that the single greatest thing you can do for a child, if you want to reduce their chance of heart disease, going to jail, being obese, you name it, after that, the number one thing you can do to them is give them 2 healthy parents. I think it's the common denominator that fixes almost all problems. And I think you're making a massive contribution. I think you've taken on probably one of the most noble endeavors in society today by doing your part to give parents the tools to stay together.
Yeah, man, it's amazing how staggering the statistics are versus like a single parent home versus a 2-parent home, right? Especially when that second parent is the father, right? When the fathers are involved in a child's life, they just I try to do this without like singling out single mothers, because when I say something, when I post something, immediately it hits a vein, and I understand it. I grew up with a single mother for a large portion of my life, and I understand the pride that she took in being able to raise me, and through all the odds and all the different things that she had to go up against in her own life, but being able to give me the tools and provide for me, and I understand the pride in that. But the reality is if a child doesn't have their father, they just don't do as well as a child with a father, even if that father isn't great, right? Just the presence of a male figure that is related to them, that they can see themselves in, that they hold value with, it just changes their life dramatically. I mean, we're talking education, like you said, obesity. We're talking prison time, self-esteem. There's so many different things that just having a present and available father changes for a child.
Yeah, that is the interesting thing, right? Like it really isn't something I got it here in my notes. How do we talk about this without making it seem like there's some duality? Like the point isn't a dig at mothers at all. Zero, 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 zero dig at mothers. A matter of fact, it's kind of interesting. I want to play this clip. Like for me personally, in my mind, I think if you could only I think every boy needs a mom.
Mm.
Like you really need your mommy. Like you gotta have someone who nurtures you and gives you that unconditional love that mom gives you. But I want to play this clip. It's at the very top. I played it a couple shows ago. It's from your Instagram account, and it really blew me away because the end of this clip, I had never heard this part before. Here we go. And this, by the way, this is from Rod Richards' Instagram account, Forfeit Fatherhood. Anyone, just follow it. Even if you don't have kids, you should follow it because it will give you perspective on society. So when there's other things that you think might be the problem, like gun laws, diet, all of these other things that people are trying to fix, these are just symptoms, and you're not addressing the issue. And when you address symptoms, what you do is you often exacerbate the problem. Okay, action.
The home have lower self-esteem. Okay, fine, that sucks. But also, women with low self-esteem are more promiscuous. No father families more likely to be victims of abuse, especially with single mothers. The more opportunities a child has to interact with biological father, the less likely they are to commit a crime or have contact with the juvenile justice system. Okay, another way to say that is men and women who are incarcerated, the population of the prisons mostly encompass fatherless homes. Now, here's something that no one else has mentioned, which I think is cool, and I don't really say this eloquently. If a man and wife raise a child, they're less likely to end up in jail, but they have the same statistical chance as children raised by just their father. So if we want to keep children,
crazy.
Adults.
I had never heard that. Have you ever heard that anywhere else, or have you dug into that?
I haven't heard that anywhere else, and I'm definitely going to dive into it because a lot of times you see stuff on social media and it's like, all right, that sounds accurate and it fits the mold that I'm trying to go in, but let's make sure that that's accurate. I can say though, and from my own experience, there is a level of, I would say, discipline that comes from the father. That is just kind of natural, that I think children who are raised by single mothers don't get. I know when my dad was out of our lives for that period of time where he was gone, there was definitely a Wild West feel. It was like I knew that I didn't want to disappoint my mom, but at the same time, it was like, well, she don't know. You know what I mean? It wasn't even like, then when my dad came back around, it was just even that little bit of a thought like, ooh, what if my dad finds out? It's just that little bit just made me stop in my tracks before I did something. And so that's why I think you get that, especially where she's talking about the jail situation, is a lot of children see their father as an authority figure already, so they don't test the authority figure levels. Like if you don't see your mom as an authority figure and you see her just as loving, then you go and test another authority figure, right? Like I think as fathers, we kind of experience that. Our kids will kind of test us a little bit, see how far they can push. But if there's no one in the house that is testable, well, then you test somebody outside the house. And then if nobody kind of curtails that early, then you end up with more problems and you start testing bigger authority figures.
You bring up a good point. Yeah, that was my relationship with my mom. There was only one thing that I didn't want to do. I didn't want to disappoint her.
Yeah.
But my dad, who I saw on the weekends, and I think maybe how my kids feel about me is like there's a little bit of fear. Little bit of healthy fear. Like I'll just pick you up and move you. You know, you have, please get in the car. Oh, you didn't get in the car, and I'm taking action on you. Like you're going to end up doing burpees right away, or I'm moving you.
Yeah, and I think what you said there is that healthy bit of fear, right?
Yeah,
Is because I don't think you feel like as a kid, you don't feel like your dad's gonna hurt you, and I
right.
mean, and there are obviously those situations as well, but you don't feel like he's gonna hurt you, but you do understand that he has a more powerful position than you, and I think that's automatically understood, that there's a hierarchy, and you don't start challenging that until you get, quite a bit older, till you start to feel like you're a man. um, and so as a child, if you're in a household and there's no hierarchy where your mom is just loving on you no matter what, she's giving you unconditional love while you appreciate it, it kind of puts you on level with her at times, right? Because she's giving you the same amount of respect and love
Yes.
and adoration that you're giving her. So it puts you on the same level. And then you're like, okay, well, I'm the man of the house. I'm gonna do what I do, and it kind of causes issue, maybe more than it should, especially when it's just mom.
I like how you use that word, respect, because my mom and my wife are always reminding me that, hey, make sure that no matter how you treat your kids, don't ever disrespect them. Like
Yeah,
don't disrespect your kids. And so I can see that that's like an important thing to them. You're right. And the kids they do get on that level with their mom. I'm more of the bulldozer that moves them around, and
hmm
their mom is more, I don't want to say they're equal, but they have that connection with them. And
yeah,
I think
yeah,
I'll eventually have that connection with them too, but now's not the time. Now I'm dad.
right, right. And
Yeah.
you can have that, but it's not a constant feel of that. Right? Like I definitely, and my wife does the same thing. I definitely try to make sure that I'm respectful of my children, and they're humans, right? They're people just like I am. And they live in my household. So I definitely want to give them the respect that they deserve. Um, but I feel like sometimes she's giving them respect they haven't earned necessarily. And then there's a lesson that they have to learn to get that level of respect, right? And they're going to continue to gain respect and grow, but I don't want to give them credit for something they haven't done yet. And I think that's the difference, is that she's willing to do. She's going to give them everything no matter what.
Yes.
I want to make them earn it. And
Yeah.
and that's where we kind of sometimes butt heads. Is like, they didn't do anything to get that, right? Like they're great kids. They do good in school. They don't cause us any troubles. And so in that regard, you definitely want to give them everything. You want to pour into them. But at the same time, that's kind of what they're supposed to do. That's their role in the house right now, is to be good students. And you know what I mean? Clean your room. That's like your normal, that's what you're supposed to do. I don't want to give you brownie points for doing the job you're supposed to do. I will congratulate you and pat you on the back a little bit, but hey, I need you to go do something else.
My wife and I were together for 15 years. We never planned on getting married. We told each other we didn't believe in marriage. We didn't believe in having kids. It wasn't something we were going to do. And then when she was 39 and I was 43, she saw another woman breastfeeding, and she's like, hey, I want to try that. I was like, all right. And so, stop using contraception, and boom, she's pregnant. And then 2 years later, she's pregnant again with twins. And I think, for ease of the story, I don't think we had fought in 5 years. We were great fighters for the first 10 years, and then we just figured it out, right? We're having the same fights over and over, so you figure it out. You have some heart to hearts. And then you have kids, and it's like what you said, all of a sudden, she's the nurturer, and I'm the lion that sits around at the top. It's just like, constantly looking for danger. And we started fighting again. And every single one of our, not in a bad way, but and it's important for your kids to see you fight, and important for them to see you make up. But all of our, any tension in my relationship with my wife now is around raising the kids, right?
Mhm.
And it's around nuanced stuff about, am I being too aggressive? Am I not respecting them? And it's interesting, and it's a give and take, right? Sometimes she realizes she overstepped her bounds on nurturing them. Like what you were saying, they got to earn that. And then other times it's like, okay, I let that, I let it go that way. Like, okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's interesting. I like what you said about your kids have to see you fight and have to see you, make up. That's important. But it's
So important, right? Especially if they see you fight, even if I have to fake it,
yeah,
I'll go in there and kiss her and apologize and like say, hey, I handled the situation completely wrong. The refrigerator door was left open, and that's never a reason to raise your voice. And I'm a complete jackass, and there's no excuse for it. And I'll do my best to make it better, even though I'm still angry about it. You know what I mean?
right, yeah,
Because I want them. I want closure. I want safety for them, and I want them to do that to the women they meet. I want them to have closure. Plus, no one wants to fight.
right, yeah. No,
Hate
you don't
that
want
shit.
it. You don't want it to linger. That's for sure.
No,
It doesn't get any better. That's something I've had to learn, just because emotionally, like improving my emotional intelligence because I have 2 daughters is something that I've really been kind of big on in the last, I don't know, year or so. But it's definitely helped me with my wife too. Is like before kids, I had 2 emotions. I was happy or I was pissed off, and that was it, right? Because I just didn't have any need for the other emotions. I had a bunch of bad stuff happen when I was a kid, and being sad didn't help make it any better. So I just kind of let that go. And when you're married and you have kids, you can't just be happy or angry, right? That's not how the world works. I can't walk around the house upset. So I had to learn how to be self-aware, be socially aware, and then understand what emotion I was feeling and be able to express that better. And it also helped me understand like what my wife or what my kids, what emotions they're feeling. Because, and I joke about this all the time, I had those 2 emotions. I realized there were other emotions, but when you look at there's like this emotional intelligence wheel, and there's like all these, there's like 47 emotions. I'm like, there's no way I felt all these things. There's no way people feel all of these things. But it is definitely a real thing. And to have your kids, especially sons, understand that we can have emotion and then we can work through it without being angry, without being frustrated, without using our body to handle the situation. And we can conversate about it, and then we can move forward. It's super important, and it's definitely something that I want my daughters to see from me, because I want them to be in relationships where if they do have an argument, the man in their life talks through it, conversates, it respects their emotions, and then they can move forward.
I pride myself on knowing everything, and if I don't know something, being able to stay still and look into myself and get the answer. I just pride myself on it. I think I'm just so fucking smart and wise and funny. And the other day, my 6-year-old son in the car driving next to me goes, Heidi, that's father in Armenian, what are feelings? And I'm like, oh shit.
Yeah.
And I'm like, okay, just stay still and let the answer arise out of you, Sevan. Everything always comes to you. You live a charmed life. And I gave him some examples, and the whole time I'm like, I'm not telling him what feelings are. I'm fucking like waffling around. I'm just giving him examples. I'm like, hey, dude, I don't really fucking know. I can give you examples, but I don't even really know what feelings are. I'm like, so when you figure it out, you tell me. It was a crazy moment, right?
Yeah.
Because usually that's what I do. I just stay still and I just wait for some like answer to come. If I don't like it, I stay still a little longer and another answer comes, and I want to be honest with them at all times. I'm like, dude, I don't even know what they are. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah. I don't think, and that's one thing that I think, that we have to continue to do. And when I say emotional and getting in touch with our emotions and understanding what emotions are, you get a little bit of pushback from guys mostly, and it's like, that that's soft and emotions or whatever, right? And I definitely am not advocating for you to be soft, whatever that means to whoever. But I think when you have a connection to how you really feel, you can move in the world a little bit differently. You can be a little bit more decisive. You can show up as a better family. If you're only, you only operate through fear, anger, and happiness, it's really hard to decide what to do at a lot of times. A lot of times you're acting out of that fear or you're acting out of that anger. And those are probably movements or situations you're going to regret later on. Like, oh man, I wish I hadn't done that. But yeah, it would be really hard for me to even explain to my kids what emotions are, what are feelings. I don't know, like,
Right. It's a trip, right? When he said that, I was like, well, we got a word for him. Like, if you ask me what a dog is, it's like that 4-legged furry creature that we've chosen dog.
Right. Yeah. Go ahead.
I do talk to him about using their emotions. I said, hey, I always tell them, hey man, that's free energy. So like if my kid says, hey, can I play with, it's 8:30 at night. He said, hey, can I take this toy to my bedroom? And I'm like, or, off the shelf in the living room, can I take it to my bedroom? And I'm like, no, we're going to bed. And he'll throw a temper tantrum and I'll kind of just walk away from him and let him like process that. And later on I'll be like, hey dude, what if you took that energy and you were to come over and hold my hands and say, Heidi, how about tonight, baby? Just one night we make an exception. And you look in my eyes and like an alchemist. And then he's like, what's an alchemist? I'm like, you gotta take that energy and see how to use it better to get what you want, as opposed to let it take you over. And I kind of, and that's a lot for a kid, but they're starting to get it. Like that's, man, it's a lot of energy that just can go to waste if you don't use it right.
Yeah, that's a really important seed to plant too, no matter how old they are, is understanding how to use that energy and that emotion to their benefit, because you're going to have them. You're going to have emotions, you're going to have feelings, and you're going to not know why you feel them. But if you can channel them into something more purposeful, like you said, like taking that energy and understanding how to not manipulate the situation, but use it to your advantage, that would have been huge, right? He'd have grabbed your hands and looked you in the eye. He probably would have broke you down right there.
Oh, they can work me. If they can work me, they can work me.
It might have turned into every night if he'd have played it right.
Yeah.
But I think that's important. An important role for us as fathers is to teach them those things, right? And I think you can, without actively doing it. Like in that situation, you would actively be teaching them how to use that energy. But I think even the not responding to him when he has a tantrum, right? Like my wife.
Yeah, that's what I do. I try not to respond. I just try to stay still and just stay still.
Yeah, like I was gonna say, my wife in the situation, because my youngest has big swings of emotion, and she won't give in, and she's getting better at it now. But she used to like hold her and pull her in, and and do all these really nurturing things. And I just am like, I'm not taking that from you. And so she's learned that it doesn't work with me, and that she has to use a different angle to get me to do something for her, right? And that's
which is awesome, because that's a new skill set for her, right?
Exactly.
How to manipulate mom, how to manipulate dad. You're doing your job. You're giving them another skill set.
Right. And it's not active in the way that you had told him about his emotion. I stonewall that idea of I'm going to cry my way to get what I want, because I know when she leaves my house, crying might get her out of a speeding ticket, but it ain't gonna get her much more. And so she's going to have to use her vocabulary. She's going to have to use her thoughts to figure out how to get what she wants, without going into this on the floor kicking, screaming set of emotions that isn't going to get her anywhere in public.
The great Cobra Rhodes writes, I believe the most important thing in dealing with someone else's feelings is to know that those feelings, though they may not make sense to us, are very valid to them. Cobra has, I think, seven kids, maybe 9 kids.
Oh, wow. Kudos.
Yeah.
I don't know if I could do it. I got 2 and I'm done.
How did you end up going down this path? What was your inspiration? Did I hear correctly about you? Did you used to manage 5 gyms?
I did. Yeah. And
you were a sports guy. We established that, right? You played college at DVC, and then you went on to play at a 4-year.
Yeah, I played football at DVC. I went on to play at Michigan Tech, which is in a much colder place than I am right now. After school, I actually worked in business. Coming out of school, I went in I was actually going to be a veterinarian, so I was in biological science until my third year, and then I switched because I started playing better, and they gave me more responsibility. And being in the lab until 10 a.m. and getting up for practice at 6 a.m. didn't really make sense to me. So I switched to business, and I was in marketing for a couple of years and hated it. And so I got into personal training. So that led me
What
to,
position did you play?
I was a linebacker, outside
Okay.
linebacker.
Okay.
Mhm. Yeah. So I got into personal training, and kind of worked at normal commercial gyms like 24-hour fitness and some of those places. Ended up at a high school. So I got into strength and conditioning, got out of personal training. I didn't really enjoy training. This time of year is great, right? Everybody's about to start going to the gym. In about 2 months, nobody's showing up. So I got tired of riding that wave and got into strength and conditioning so I could work with athletes again. And got lucky enough that I was doing well enough to take a job with the New York Mets. So I worked there for 2 seasons, and then my wife
With
got
strength and
pregnant.
conditioning.
hmm
Wow.
Yeah, my came home for an R-star break. We had missed each other, and well, I think we know how that goes. And then it's interesting. We were going to visit my family for Thanksgiving. She wasn't feeling well. Took the test, found out I was going to be a father, and it's immediately in that moment, when she told me, I was like, yeah, I'm not going back. I'm not going back to Florida. I'm not going back to New York. It was nothing in my mind that I could reason for me not to be there, not to be there for the appointments, not to be there during the pregnancy, not to be there, once the baby's born. 6 months out of the year, I'm in Florida or New York or flying all over the country. And in 6 months, I get to see my kid. I just couldn't put that together in my head. So, I called my coordinator and let him know that this was it. I'd finish out the season or whatever they needed me to do. And luckily it wasn't much, and I was out. And so that's when I say, like, I kind of realized my purpose in that moment. I had been I thought strength and conditioning was it, and trying to get to the upper levels of strength and conditioning, and being in Major League Baseball is huge, but it wasn't as fulfilling as in that moment when I heard I was dad. Immediately that trumped everything else that I had done to that point. And so I had to figure out how I could be home and available, for my child. So came back to California. I had been kind of working part-time with a company, a strength conditioning company down here in Southern California. I let them know that I was coming back, and they welcomed me with somewhat open arms. Um, and just kind of work my way through the company to the point where I was, what I say would be regional manager. I was basically second in command in terms of the company itself. And we grew that to 5 gyms, and it was great. And then the pandemic hit, and I realized that I had gotten away from my purpose. In the gym life, especially if you're running a gym, I was the first person in and the last person out. And in between, throughout the day, I was going to different gyms. So I was driving all over the place. I was spending 12, 14-hour days at the gym, and my kids were growing up without me. The reason I left to be home with them, I had lost sight of that. I got into, we're building this great business, and we got all these kids. We got 50,000 athletes that have trained at our facilities, and it's just all these different things. And it was great, but it wasn't my core purpose, right? Serving people, yes. Helping young athletes reach their potential, yes. Reaching back into the community and doing some of the community stuff we were doing, yes. But my core purpose has always been my children and being a father, and I wasn't there. And I say that during the pandemic, I realized that because all the gyms are shut down in California. So I'm home, and I think it was like a Tuesday, and we're having dinner, and my youngest daughter asked me, why am I there? And
Oh,
even now that it chokes me up, because like I hadn't, in her whole life, I hadn't eaten dinner at home throughout the week, like Monday through Friday, like I was gone. You know what I mean? And so, for her to see me at dinner and I in my own house, like she was like, "What are you doing here?" And she obviously didn't mean it maliciously, but it was like one of those kid questions, like, "Why are you at dinner? Like, what are you doing here? You don't eat dinner with us." Um, and again, in that moment, I was rocked to my foundation. Like, yeah, I'm not doing what I'm supposed to do. So I set it up and hired some people and trained them and replaced myself basically. And so
Wow.
I've thrown myself back into being committed to my family, to showing them and providing for them and doing the things for them that they need me to do. Obviously, I still got to be a provider and I still got to do different things to make sure that I'm keeping a roof over our head and food in their mouth and all that stuff. But I get to go to games. I coached their softball teams this last season. I'm at practices. I'm at midday awards events. Like anything that they have going on, everything that they have going on, I want to be fully present and available because I was the kid that didn't have that for a period of time, and I know how it felt, and I don't want them to ever feel that way.
Three things I want to go back to. I'm going to write that down. You know how it felt. When you found out your wife was pregnant,
Mm-hmm.
did you feel like a software program started up in you that you had never seen before inside of you? Like this thing where you're like, all of a sudden, because that's what happened to me. I felt like something like this thing start up and I'm like, who the fuck is that? And then that person just took over. They just kicked the old me out. And I was like, this is incredible.
Yeah, it's funny. And I talk about that all the time is how that title, father, even if you've never had one, even if you never experienced one, even if you had a bad one, once you receive it, there's a certain amount of weight. Like they say, heavy is a head that wears a crown. There's a certain amount of weight that comes onto you immediately. And if you don't download a system or have another version of yourself step up, that crown is going to weigh you down. So almost immediately, yes, I definitely felt like I was becoming someone else and nothing had even happened yet. I just heard some words, and I was like, yeah. I stepped right into it. Like with a door opened in front of me and it was my opportunity to rectify whatever I thought that I could, or to create a world for this person that I didn't see in front of me. You know what I mean? Like it was
like all of a sudden I knew how to speak Spanish. I never spoke Spanish in my life. And then all of a sudden I'm fluent. I'm like, what the fuck?
Right.
I was so blown away. I don't know if that's a biological thing or what, but all of a sudden everything shifted. All sorts of, the example I give is when packages used to come in the mail and they would be like camera equipment. I would be so excited and I would sit down and open it like nothing else mattered. The whole world would go away. And now all of a sudden packages are sitting on the counter for weeks. I don't give a shit. You know what I mean? I'm like, who have I become? There's a new lens in there. You know what I mean? It was a trip.
Yeah. It definitely shifts your perspective. Some of the things that you place value in just don't seem so valuable anymore. And
it's freeing too, right? It's freeing. It's so freeing.
If you allow it to, because I know a lot of guys, and this is especially younger guys, when I talk with.
Yeah, and I was old. I was 43.
They struggle with letting go of their ideas, and I understand it because as a young man looking back, if I would have had my kids maybe 10 years earlier, when I was 10 years old, I would have been 17. God, please no. But had I had them younger, let's say 5, when I was in my early 20s,
yeah,
I was just learning how to be me at that time. I was just figuring out who I was. And then to have a kid come in, and now I just embraced myself. Now I've got to be a father, or I've got to be a husband.
Can't even imagine
the struggle of trying to grapple with all of these identities all at one time, right? Because we have our biggest struggles in life when we go through these identity crises. And going from a boy to a man is one of those. Going from just being a boyfriend to a husband is another one of those that we struggle with. And definitely manhood to fatherhood might be the easiest transition if you've had some time to establish your manhood. right? Because
Right.
fatherhood is like that next step. And if you haven't really built out the foundation of manhood, well, then you're fathering on sand, and it makes it more difficult. You aren't able to just download the fatherhood software.
Yeah,
You
it
know what I
was
mean?
so easy for me.
Yeah. Your system was
I was kind
compatible.
of done with myself. I was ready for it. I was like, fuck, 43 years with that guy. Done with him.
Right? Yeah,
Yeah.
It was time for an update. It was time to
Yeah.
update your software, and you're compatible. You had all the things. A lot of it too is as men, we are building to a point, right? Like we're trying to get financially stable, and we're trying to get some of the things that we've always wanted as young men, and we're trying to create this life for ourselves. And then kids throw that out the window. Like they don't care about that. They immediately just come in, and they demand your resources, they demand your attention, they demand your time. So if you haven't had an opportunity to enjoy some of your success, to enjoy some of your manhood, then you're at an internal struggle with yourself where the man you and the dad you are like, yo, I need this, or I need this. And it makes it a bit harder.
It's interesting. A lot of people, the conventional wisdom is that you're going to have kids and you want to have them kind of young so that you can go out and throw the pigskin around with them and play Frisbee with them and lift weights with them and all that stuff, and coach their softball team. But the truth is although I may not be able to go to the beach and play Frisbee with them for 6 hours straight at 50, because I take care of myself, I can still go out there and play for 30 minutes full sprints. Then I just need 10 minutes or 15-minute break, hang out, lay down, and then I can go again. But I never hard on myself for it, because I enjoy watching them move actually as much as I enjoy participating. Like, it's really not I don't feel like I'm missing out in the slightest. Like, I can just go to the skate park and post up and just watch them move and just be in awe.
Right. Yeah, I think that's on us. I think we think that we have to have that 6 hours of energy, right? But if and I tell guys, like, money wise, right? If I paid you $100 over 6 hours, or if I told you I'll give you $100 an hour, which one would you have? $100 an hour, right? I'd take
Yes,
that all
sir.
day. Your kids want that $100 an hour too. Like, you don't have to play Frisbee for 6 hours. Give them $100 worth of Frisbee in that hour.
Damn.
You know what I
Yep.
mean? If
Yep.
that's what you got, if that's all you have, be intentional about it. Set your schedule to fit it.
Yep.
Go all in, go all out during that time.
Yep.
And then you don't have to worry about those other 5 hours. You can do some other stuff. There's some
Right.
other things that you could fit in. And I think we struggle with that because the world demands so much of our time. And we're trying to figure out, well, if I'm going to give 8 hours to my job, I got to sleep. No, nobody really sleeps 8 hours anymore, unfortunately. But let's say we got 8 hours to my job. I got to sleep for 8 hours. I'm probably commuting. Like, there's not any time for my kid, right? So I got to wait until there's all these different things that we think and we put on ourselves. But whether it be kids or any other thing that you want to commit yourself to, if you're intentional about the time and you set it up correctly, you can give your undivided attention to your child, to your goal, to whatever, to your wife, if that's the situation. But it's a matter of taking hold of your life and understanding things that are going on around you.
The paradox here, there's a two-part question for you. The paradox here, right, is that how is it that we're saying that dads are so important, and yet you were raised by a single mom and you're becoming such a wonderful dad? So there's that paradox here I'd like to explore. And then also I want to talk, where did you learn your work ethic? Is that from watching a mom? How many siblings did you have?
I'm the only child, but I have 4 sisters. So I'm my mom's only child. So when I'm living with my mom, it's just me.
Okay.
Yeah.
So somehow she set an example for you about work,
Mm-hmm.
right? What did that look like? And I thank God I had that too. My mom was a fucking workaholic.
Yeah. So here's my situation's interesting. So my mom and dad are together till I'm about 5. My dad struggled with some drug issues. It's the 80s, California, the drugs are huge. So they end up getting divorced, and he was gone completely, I'd probably say, for 2 to 3 years, right? Very important years though, right? From, that I was like 4.5 to 7.5, almost 8. He's not in the picture at all. He starts to come back. He's gotten himself together. He's starting to come back, but then it's the custody situation. So I get to see him every other weekend, maybe a month in the summer. They split the holiday, so I get to see him like Christmas Eve, that kind of thing, right? So I don't get to see him a whole lot, but I do get to see him. My mom remarries. She marries my stepdad, which was good because there's a male in the house, but he worked overtime all the time, right?
You did like having a stepdad? You weren't resentful of him? You weren't like, hey, dude, get the fuck out of here?
Well, that's let me
Okay,
explain.
okay.
So I don't want to say I didn't like him, because I didn't have a reason not to like him, right? Like I'm a pretty agreeable person. He wasn't doing anything wrong. He loved my mom for all intents and purposes. But here's the thing about it is, like I said, he worked overtime, so I barely saw him. When I saw him, he was eating dinner or he was asleep. You know what I mean? Like he wasn't around. He was a male figure in the house, and so there was that that feeling of discipline and structure, but he wasn't ever there. He was always working. Because my mom my mom actually got injured on the job, and she's been on disability like since I was 6 or 7, so she hasn't been able to work like a real job like that. So from him, I saw, you get out, you go work, you take care of your family, right? And I always had, and I actually looked him up the other day. They'd been divorced for 20 years, and I looked him up the other day, and I was going to call him, but I didn't have the courage to just yet. But what I saw from him, what I learned from him, is that a man goes out and provides for his family, no matter what, no matter how tired he is, no matter what the situation is, you get up and you go work, right? When my dad comes back into the picture, he's working 2 or 3 jobs, right? And so I see the same thing from him. When I'm at his house, he's going to and from work. He's making sure to spend time with me because he doesn't get a whole lot of it. But I know that he works 2 jobs and sometimes 3 jobs. So I'm seeing that from him. My mom can't technically work because if the state find out she has a job, they're going to take away whatever resources we get. So she's doing side jobs and doing little hustle things, right?
That's an interesting conversation on its own, huh?
Yeah.
What you just said about how the state works.
Yeah, man, it's I don't understand how they expect people to live. Granted, I know that's a very nuanced conversation. There's a whole lot of parts to it, but even today in 2022, the amount of money that they give a person to live on in a state like this is, and then say you can't make anything extra, you can't go out and do it. It's tough. It's tough. So we were I think at that time, I think it was like 14,000 a year. And
Wow.
we're mother and a child supposed to learn that, and if she goes out and get a job, which she could have, but she's like literally injured. Like it wasn't like she didn't want to work. Like she had to have surgery. She was going through physical therapy for years. She still to this day at the age of 65 has the same and similar back injury that she had when I was 6, so 33 years ago.
Right.
So it wasn't like she didn't want to work, working. I wouldn't hire somebody that has to take every other day off because they're hurt.
Right. No,
like,
me
just
neither.
let's be real.
Right.
Like,
right.
You're a great person. Your work ethic on Monday was great, but I can't have you out Tuesday and Thursday. It's just not going to make sense. So she did different things under the table. So in terms of working to make money, I saw everybody around me working to make money. Everybody is doing something or multiple somethings or working overtime, which I inherited from them, and which is why I was working those 12 or 14-hour days, because it's just what I thought people did. It's what you're supposed to do. You go out and you breadwin. But I don't, looking back at it now, I think it was both a gift and a curse, because I didn't get to spend the time with the fathers of the male figures in my life to teach me some of those other lessons that I would have liked to. And I didn't know that I needed to know them then. I was just happy that, somebody was there and taking care of business. So learn that part of work ethic, but then I played sports and I had some really good coaches along the way. And I think in that era, that 80s, 90s era of sports, there were still some coaches that would get in your face, grab your face mask. They weren't taking you being lazy. Water was for the weak. And then some of these things that aren't necessarily good things that we know now, but they just weren't going for you not working hard. Working hard, it was like that was inherited. It was innate. That's what you had to do. And so I wanted to play sports. I enjoy playing sports, and so I adopted it. Hard work, it pays off, right? And that's what we're going to do. So that's where my work ethic came from. I would say is seeing it from the people that are right around me, and then it just nothing less being accepted, right? What was your second question? I lost it in all of that talking.
Well, I think you nailed it. I think you nailed it. Basically, you're saying is that the two components is that you did have people around you who were working very hard in sports. The fact that you were in sports and you had someone basically saying to you, "Hey, don't be a pussy," and there's a place for that.
Right. And I'm not the like my it's funny. My grandfather, if you go back to Richmond and you look at some of the track and field records, my grandfather's name is at the top of almost every list. One of the fastest guys in the city, one of the fastest guys in the state during his time. He didn't finish high school. So you're talking about a freshman, sophomore, was the fastest guy in the state for many years. And then my uncle ended up breaking this record.
Wow.
Long time later. So I'm coming from a fast family, but I'm not, I'm not slow, but I wasn't as fast as them. I wasn't as strong.
You're a big dude though too, right?
I'm all right. I'm all right. Considering like I had to work hard at it. And that's the point I'm getting to is like, I wasn't the fastest. I wasn't the strongest. I've got some athletic talent, right? But everything I had to work for. And in order to get better, I had to work at it. And because my dad was gone or, splitting visitation time and my stepdad wasn't there, anything that I wanted to get better, I had to do. I had to go out to the park or recruit some friends. Or I had a buddy in high school and his dad was a bodybuilder. And we used to just like beg his dad to give us workouts. Right. We saw a Walter Payton video. So we found a hill. We used to run up and down the hill. Like it was just things that like I would go out and actively try to find ways to make myself better because I really enjoyed sports.
Wow.
And I felt like I didn't have all the tools that some of like my friends, I had friends that were like phenomenal athletes, right? Like, just, oh man, this guy is a freak athlete. And I wasn't a freak athlete. I was just a good athlete. And so I had to work and I had to do things to help myself be better at it, we talked about a little earlier, Richmond being a wild place. There was a period of time in my life where I couldn't go outside because it was dangerous in our neighborhood. And there's only so much TV you can watch. So I begged my mom for a dumbbell set, and I used to just do curls and push-ups. And it was like being in prison. I think about it now, it's like being in prison and trying to get yard time and go out and do some workouts and that kind of stuff. And so that definitely helped me. As things went on, I did become a bigger, stronger, faster guy, but I wasn't that initially, and I had to work at it.
Do you know how your granddad ended up in Richmond, where he came from?
From Texas. He's from Texas. His side of the family is from Texas, by way of Louisiana. I want to say Baton Rouge. My great grandmother's Baton Rouge, and then they moved to Dallas, I believe, or Dallas area, and then they end up moving to Richmond because it's a really cool story. She ended up working the docks in Richmond. The port there at one point was the largest port on the West Coast. She, as a woman at that time, was not allowed to work there. So she wore a big jacket and a hat really low and covered her face and worked as a woman on the ships for, I want to say, and this is her telling the story, she would say for a time and a half, which was like, 7 years, 10 years, or whatever, time and a half, old Black people talk. As a man, she worked on the docks, but obviously she's a woman, and they found out and she got fired, but she worked on the docks, and she would, during lunchtime, she would just go somewhere else where everybody else, spent time having lunch. you know, in an effort to try to provide for a family.
And that's where she met your granddad?
No, that's my great grandmother. That's how he got to Richmond. She brought him out here with
Oh,
her.
wow.
Mhm, mhm. It's
Wow.
interesting story.
I was walking around in the Berkeley Hills one time, and I heard this is probably like 20 years ago.
Mhm.
And I was walking with my wife, and we used to go on these long walks up from San Pablo up into the hills, and I heard this like screaming, not even like screaming, like wailing, like an injured animal.
Mhm.
And I'm looking around, and I can't figure out what's going on. And I finally see that there's a garage, and it's in the middle of the day, right? There's no traffic. Everyone's off to work. And I see that there's a garage door. You know how the garages are off to the side of the houses there? They're kind of like not connected to the houses,
Mhm.
those nice houses up there. And I see a lady's head sticking out from underneath the bottom of the fucking garage door, and the garage door is closed on her. I fucking jump over the fence into her front yard, and I pull up her garage door, and it's like this 90-year-old woman, and the garage door had collapsed on her and pinned her to the ground.
Wow.
And I take her into the house, and she's so crazy thankful. She makes us tea. We sit around and we eat with her. And basically, I'm just trying to find like some relatives I can call her. We hang out there for like 2 hours until some of her relatives show up. But she was a Black woman, and she told us her whole story about how her dad was basically a train. He worked on a train. He's like one of the guys who walked inside in the train cars.
Mhm.
And he did the train back and forth from New York to California. And then that's how they got established there. And it was just a fascinating story. So I find it fascinating also that it was your great grandmother who worked on the docks, right? She came out west for work, right?
Yep. Yep.
And I'm gonna bet she came out on the train.
I would bet so too.
Right.
My grandfather on my mother's side worked on the train as well. That was, I mean, obviously trains were the way people got around, but that's how a lot of people got to that area of California, right? To that Oakland, San Francisco Bay Area, just coming out west on the train. Let's find work. Let's find something to do. I know that was, I guess, the case for my family, in some ways.
This is, I remember the question I asked that we're getting to. So then how did you get into thinking that this was a good idea for you to start sharing this with the world? How did this become your mission? You knew it was your mission for yourself, for your 2 daughters and your wife. When did you decide, hey, you know what? I'm going to take this up I'm going to get on a ladder and start screaming this to the world?
There's kind of 2 answers there. The selfish answer is that if I don't help other fathers, the world that my daughters grow up in are going to have bad men and bad women. And so in order to help create a world for them that I would like for them to live in, then I'm going to have to help others. So that's the selfish.
That's brilliant. If I don't help, who's my daughter going to marry? That's how I feel too. If I don't make good if I don't help, then who are my sons going to marry?
Yeah.
Okay,
So that's the selfish one. Here's the other side to it is and every day I realize how amazing fathering is, how transformational it is, here's a perfect example. So you have a weight loss client, right? They lose 100 pounds. What's one of the first things they go do? They go start telling people, right? And then they become a coach somehow. Now they're helping people lose weight. It's one of those things where you have those transformations in your life. And fatherhood is a transformational event. You want to go share how important that is, or how wonderful it was for you, or some of the things that it changed. And as I began to do that in my immediate circle, other people start kind of catching on, and I start talking like just random people. Like I run into a guy. It's being a dad is one of those, like you talk about like a networking event where you have to find a commonality to make that conversation. It's super easy. Like we all have these little connecting things, and I start talking to the other guys, and I just start spreading out. And I was like, man, being a dad is super important, and there's a lot of dads who are leaving that on the table. just for whatever reason. And I'm not blaming
What does that
anybody.
mean? You mean not embracing the job and running with it?
Yes, 100%, 100%. Because and there's a number of reasons. I won't say excuses because they're real, right? People really feel these feelings and they have reasons why they aren't able to be there. And there's custody things and there's relationship things and all those things. But I think that being a father has such an important role in our society. It's such an impactful thing to do in our world. If we can be better fathers, then we can create a better world. Like, I don't think that I'm going to be able to change the world, right? I don't know that my daughters are going to be able to change the world. But if we can individually infect one other person and that other person can infect another person, it's a spread that eventually kids, great grandkids, somewhere they're gonna feel that impact. They're gonna be in a world, hopefully, where the children of that generation have been fathered well, and they can move and enjoy and live in a world or with a partner, a group of people, a community, whatever it is that has been fathered, and they can enjoy that fathering.
What do you think? Is there a single reason in the circles I run in, people blame the government a lot for the reason why women are breaking away. Let me rephrase that. The reason why men and women are separating. They're saying that the way society is set up, that people are being rewarded for leaving their husbands. Maybe you've heard that narrative. I don't know what narrative I believe. I don't. What's the solution? How do we keep couples together? Is it like, hey, don't have kids unless you're going to stay together? You kind of can't say that because people are going to just fuck. Like, that's what we do. Right?
Yeah, right.
Is there any practical advice or hey, do 6 sit-ups a day and you'll stay with your wife? I mean, is there any just learn how to make an omelet and you're cool? Like, what's the practical solution? I know it's important that we just talk about it. I definitely know that, because then maybe you're less likely to snap on your wife or snap on your husband, and you'll realize the importance of staying together. I will say this, every single one of my friends who's gone through a divorce is like, dude, no matter what, don't get a divorce.
Yeah.
And then there'll always be someone in the comments who will be like, hey, my fucking husband beat me. Fuck you.
Right.
And I'm like, okay, you win.
Yeah. Is
there any just like practical advice? Is it go to counseling with your wife, or hey, make sure you work out with your wife? Like, because that's the root, right? We got to try to keep couples together who are having kids.
Right. Yes. 100%. I think, well, even in that statement, we have to keep couples together that are having kids. A lot of people that are having kids aren't couples. So that's one of the things. I would say too, I think we have to think of the bigger picture, right? I think a lot of times we go into these situations, people have kids based on 6 seconds of pleasure, right? If the average orgasm lasts for 6 seconds, guys have an orgasm, and then we're like, oh, and then we had a kid.
I need
10
a
months
sandwich.
Later.
I need a
sandwich. Right? 10 months later, we got this kid that we never intended on having, and we're having to make a transition sooner than and so now, we're going to do the right thing. We're going to do right by her. And we marry this woman that we really had no intention of marrying prior to that. And then it gets rocky. And we've never worked on our relationship, because at the start of it, we didn't intend on having this long-term relationship. So we never worked on ourselves. We never worked on our relationship. And now it's easier for me to just bail out. This isn't working. I can't stand you. I love little John Jr. is my favorite. I love him. But I don't like you at all. And so I'd rather just leave you and love them than to stay here and hate you and hate my life.
Right.
So I think they're definitely, I think we put more time in, unfortunately, I think we put more time into picking out our shoes than we do picking our partners.
Wow.
Like, like if you think about it, like if you're
Yeah.
gonna go buy a pair of shoes, right?
Yeah.
If you go to the store, let's say even if you go to the store, you take them out, you try them on, you tie them up, you walk around the store a few times with them. I don't really like those. You put those back. You know, these are a little too tight. Let me take I don't think we vet our relationships enough for something as serious as fatherhood, or parenting, I should say, or marriage even, right? I think a lot of times we because marriage is work. It's not, and I don't say that in a negative sense, because anything worth having is worth working for. But it requires you to work on you, which a lot of us don't want to do, right? As men, we definitely don't want to admit that we have faults. We don't want to say that there's something wrong with us. So we don't want to, we don't, it's always hard saying that, because then you get like you mentioned, the comments is always,
No, I get it.
there's always
If you get
somebody on both sides of it.
if you get a flat tire in your car, you have to, cars are work, right? You get a car, you have to wash it, you get a flat tire, you got to change it, the engine breakdown. You have no problem doing that work. But for some reason, you keep getting in the same fight with your wife every 3 days. And,
Right.
and if by the 15th time, if you're still blaming her, you're a fucking idiot.
Right. Exactly.
Because like, hey man, now it's like you need to do some work. You have to change something that's coming out of your mouth. You need to stand differently. It doesn't matter, but you better start fucking like working.
Right. Yeah.
You better slow everything down and start working. You're right. It is work. A brand new car is work. A brand new relationship is work. You're getting into work.
And it starts with you, right? Like
Right,
you have to, if I get a brand new sports car, I got to learn how to drive it. Like if I put a Lamborghini in my driveway today, I don't know how to drive that.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like I think I do, but
Yeah,
I don't
you think
really,
you do.
yeah.
Right.
I don't really know how to drive that thing, you know? So I'm gonna get in there and I'm gonna mess it up the first couple of times. Like it's not gonna look as sexy as it does in the James Bond movie. Like, you know what I mean?
Right.
But eventually I'm gonna get the hang of it, but I have to learn how to be the driver of a Lamborghini. Just like we
Right.
have to learn how to be a husband in a relationship, or how we have to learn how to be the man in a relationship. Here's the sad part about it. I think put up a stat, and I think it's like 50% or 51% of marriages end in divorce, or something like that. People break up, right? That means that happened, and the numbers are a little different, but that happened in most of our parents' situations, right? And so
Right.
that's normalized.
Me and you, both of us,
Yeah,
divorced parents. Yeah.
it's normalized. Like we've seen that before. So
Totally normal for me. Totally normal.
it's an option. We don't have to work through it. Like if I don't like you and you don't like me, I don't want to change. You don't want to change? Cool. Let's break up. But what we don't realize is that when we split up, we invite, and this is the only argument that I'll make for the government, or in the government sense, because that's a lot. Once we decide we're going to split, we're inviting a third party in that neither one of us really have control over. And they are going to do what they want to do in our relationship. And if we wouldn't allow any other third party into our relationship, why allow that one in? Right. And I don't think we ever see that. We don't see that coming. Right. And honestly, guys, get the short end of the stick. It's not our fault, but it is someone's fault. Somewhere along the line, some dudes were screwing this thing up. And so we're on the short end of the stick at this point.
What do you mean? Because the legal system will push the kids towards the mom, regardless.
Yeah. They definitely do. And in a lot of situations, like, to be honest, like a lot of dudes aren't. No, gosh dang it. A lot of dudes aren't fighting to have full blown custody like that. They definitely want to be involved. Definitely want to be a part of. There are definitely a lot of moms that are weaponizing kids because they're mad.
That shit is
at dad.
crazy.
Yeah.
How about the irony of that? You divorce this woman you don't get along with, but the truth is you're going to have to try to get along with her more than ever if you get a divorce.
100%.
Or else the kids are going to suffer like a mofo.
Yeah. But again, that's the big picture, right? You've got to look at the big picture of it. You're going, no matter what, you are tied to that woman forever. For at least 18 years, you're going to be very closely tied. After that, you guys you might see her at the wedding. You might see her at the grandkids' birthday party. That might be it. But for these formative years, these next 18 years, while they're in school or they're growing or they're getting older, you are going to have to deal with her. You're going to have to co-parent or parallel parent or something. So you're not getting away. You're not getting, you may not have to sleep in the bed with her. You may be able to go put other women in your bed, but your household still involves her. The decisions that you make about that kid still involve her. The things that you want to do when you go to that football game, who are you going to be sitting next to? Like her.
Right,
like
right.
you're still there.
And maybe her new husband.
Right. And that's uncomfortable, right? So it would be better, or it could behoove you to try to work through it if it's possible.
Caleb, go ahead. Let's play this clip. By the way, I want to tell you once again, it's 4Fit Fatherhood. It's the number 4Fit Fatherhood. It's an endless resource. I dug through it for like 2 hours last night on my computer. There's so many good clips, all varieties. But and he tackles some tough subjects because, okay, let's hit play on this. Well, you'll know why here in a second.
To women, more single dads than single.
Excuse me, can I get a second? You're forgetting about the part about the fathers who's trying to be parents. Hold up, I'll let you talk. You forgetting about the parent. All right, you're about to. You forgetting about the fathers who's not given a chance to be a parent. My father tried to be there because he wasn't with my mother no more. She made that shit so toxic for him. He had to let me go. So you say yes? No. Hold up. I'll let you talk. My mother didn't even want me, but still didn't want my father to take care of me. Okay.
I see both perspectives.
But you're still not seeing the perspective of women not allowing men to be fathers. No, that's to you.
I can't.
That's to you.
I've seen the kids weaponized more than once, man. That is a fucking tough thing to witness.
Yeah. And it's because there aren't many ways to get at a guy, right? Like, because we're stoic and we put these walls up, even in our relationships, right? Like, we don't give more than we have to. Women know, like, that kid is your soft spot, no matter how tough a dude you are, right? No matter how much of a badass you are, kids are they immediately have a straight shot to your heart, right? And if I can't get back at you, I'm saying all these things about you to you. I'm telling people around you these things about you. I keyed up your car, all these little petty things, and you're shrugging them off. Well, I know how to get you. I know how to dig in. You can't see your kids this weekend. No, they're not gonna make it. No, sorry, they got something going on this weekend. You can't see them. That hurts. That is definitely a way to get at somebody who maybe doesn't respond in any other way.
By the way, and in the end, it's only the kids who suffer.
100%. I was doing some work with First Five Alameda, with co-parenting through the holidays, and some of the stories the guys have it's a struggle. I mean, like, and it's not like we think about custody battle and we're like, oh, we go to court and they figure it out in this, maybe a few months, few weeks. These dudes are struggling for years.
Yeah.
Like 5, 6, 7 years of custody battles where it's inconsistent visitation, no visitation at all. A buddy of mine that I played football with, that I grew up with, and you may have seen it on my podcast, his wife just took his kids and moved to Africa, like just took off.
Holy shit.
And didn't.
Holy shit. She
forged his signature, just took off, and he had to go through the FBI. Like, he had it's a whole thing. And I tell him all the time, bro, it sounds like a movie. It does sound like a movie. There is a movie. I'm sure there is that movie. I'm like, bro, you're Liam Neeson. Like, you literally had to go and like, he had to get help from the government to get his kids back.
Did he get him back?
He did. He got him back just recently. A few months ago, he got him back, and they went out there, kicked in the door, and got the kids back. So now he has custody.
No shit. The FBI did that. They do good shit like that.
It was a struggle. It was a struggle for sure, but because he actually went out there and tried to take care of some stuff on his own, but the government out there was like, if you're not paying, we're not doing anything.
Which country were they taken to?
Ghana. She went to Ghana.
Wow. That's
West Africa.
Okay. Yeah. Up in the top, right?
Near Nigeria, if I'm not mistaken.
Okay. Wow, that's some scary shit to go to a foreign country and try to get your kids.
Yeah, that's what I said, man. It's like a movie.
Okay.
he he went out there on his own, like right after it happened, and I guess the chief of police or whatever the title is there literally told him, if you can't pay me out of your pocket, if you don't have any pocket change, then your kids are going to stay here. Like, there's nothing we're going to do. And I think even the country itself has some rule that they don't interfere in those things. So he had to get the American government to help because they would not at all. And technically, because she wasn't a full citizen yet, she's still, still responsibility of America. And so they were able to come in. But had she had a little bit more time, that was it for him.
How long did they date before he married her?
That is a good question that I don't know the answer to. I don't.
How long did you date? How long did you date your wife before you had kids?
We're high school sweethearts, so we were together for 10 or 11 years before we had kids. We're together for 10 years before we got married, 12 years before we had kids.
Yeah, you think that's so you kind of understand what I say when you, like, by the time you had kids, you kind of been through all the fights.
Yeah, been through all of it. Had some time apart.
Yeah, me too.
We were broken up for about a year.
Yeah,
Got to experience life without each other. The high school sweethearts thing is really cute to say, but it comes with its downfalls and pitfalls because you don't really get to experience life as a person, as yourself, because you've always been, you've always been an and. You never get to be a you. So I think we talk about it all the time. That year apart was huge for us because we got to explore ourselves and get to know who we were. And then we came back into relationship. We were 100% ourselves again. But then growing together is important because you get to figure out, do you really want to be with this person? So yeah, I agree. Dating for a longer period of time, even though people are pushing you to get married sooner, or, get engaged, or what are you waiting for? Dude, if you don't feel it, you don't feel it. Like it's no need to rush it because as much as she wants to have a ring on her finger, she also don't want to have to take it off at some point. So if that means you guys dating longer and getting to know each other, then definitely do that.
Hey, I'm going to be frank with you too. I'm Armenian and my wife's a Jew, and there's no fucking way I'm spending $10,000 on a fucking ring. I'll put $10,000 in a mutual fund, and when my kids are 77, they'll have $11 million.
Yeah.
Thank you.
Yeah.
And they'll be like, okay, I bought a little gold ring for $400. And I told her, hey, let that shit get scratched up and pass it on to your grandkids. This guy right here, Matt Schindeldecker, Morning Sevan, we work through and talk about skills to navigate these topics at the new CrossFit Athlete Center Trauma Sensitive Coach Seminar. Love this topic and conversation. Dude, you would love to have this dude on your podcast. This dude has started a program that's expanding out of his state, and it's expanded all over his state. And basically what he does is he has this CrossFit gym, and the courts, instead of sending people to juvenile hall, the kids have a choice, like, hey, or you can do this program every single day for 9 weeks. And the kids that come in there are fucked up. The stories are crazy, right? You could just imagine the crazy shit these kids have at home. But because they're in this group every single day with other kids who went through the same thing, and adults who've gone through it already, and all the probation officers have to take the class too. So like you got to do 100 burpees with your probation officer. It's cool shit. I can't recommend this guy enough. This guy's like what we were talking about, what's the solution? This guy's getting the damaged goods and rebuilding them. It's cool shit.
Yeah, he's doing the work. I like that.
Yeah, it's really cool. There's this video, there's this thing that and I'm making a sweeping generalization. By the way, I saw a friend of mine on your Instagram account. You had James Townsend on your Instagram many months ago, maybe a year ago, working out with his daughter. This guy is a fucking incredible man. Does that name ring a bell? Do you know what I'm talking about?
I know the video. I don't know him personally, but I know the video. I know exactly what you're talking about.
Yeah, this dude's amazing. Now he's got another daughter. He's got two daughters. Yeah. And lucky he is a stud. But another guy I highly recommend you get on the podcast. He's cool as shit, and he's putting in the work. That's cool, right?
Yeah. See, like that is super cool. And what I really like about it is it's breaking that, like, your daughters have to be princesses. Like she could be a princess and lift weights, right? Like
Of course.
they're connecting in such a way, and it looks like it's just weightlifting and it's cute, but they're connecting in such a way that she's seeing struggle and strength at the same time.
And
She's
she's staring at the
seeing
man she's going to marry.
100%.
Right? He's mirroring her. Like he's setting her up for success.
100%. Like, and it's beautiful to see it, right? Because we don't see this, right? Like we don't get to see how many times a dad has taken his daughter to the gym, and we don't get to see, and you can tell this is not the first time. Like her I like her.
Dude,
her form
she's
is
in
solid,
every video. The kids are
right?
fucking freaks. The kids,
She's
she's
locked
and
in.
he's a tough dad too, man. It's not all fun and games with James Townsend. Like this guy's these girls work.
And that's the way it should be, you know.
Yeah.
You that the little kiss before, all of that, all these little parts of the video are just like, so he looks her right in the eye. You know, all of these things are so important. She feels safe right now. She's like, you know, dad can protect. Look at all the weight dad's lifting. Look at what I'm lifting. Like, oh man, he's amazing. He's my superhero. Like all these things are happening right now. Oh, we're dancing. Oh, let's dance. You know, all these different things. It's so important. And here's the thing. He could go work out by himself.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. That sacrifice on his part. Cause you know, that guy, he needs his alone time he needs his alone time. Yeah. He gets at it.
He definitely could just be like, hey, I'm going to the gym. See you guys in an hour, 2 hours, whatever time it takes for me to get through today's programming. But to be like, hey, you coming with me? And not only are you going to come with me and sit in the corner on the iPad, let's get the kids bar. Let's put some weights on there. Let me show you what we're doing today, right? What we are doing today. And that's super important. That connection will last forever, right? No matter what happens, and this is what I always say, no matter what happens between the two of them in their lives, those moments are going to last forever, and they're going to echo through eternity, right? Whenever she talks about her father, whether she's a grandmother, great grandmother, she's going to say my father. And by that time, great grandfather, like he'll be great grandfather at that time. He may not be around anymore, but the image and the impact that he has in her life will echo forever. He's always going to be her father. And that moment of strength and struggle is always going to be there. And my dad was strong, but he cared about me. This is this one thing that he really, really loved, and he included me in it. I was a part of it. You know, she may grow up and love weightlifting herself, and that may be something, you know, that may be a legacy that they leave to get. Like it's being present and available are the best gift that you can give your kids, because they're gifts that last forever.
You said something yesterday that I was listening to your podcast yesterday, and you said something that made me so freaking happy. It's like I need to hear stuff like this, what I heard on your podcast, that this whole fucking mess we're in, if you want to call it a mess, my words, not yours, can be changed in one generation. And when I heard that, I was like, oh my God, we can flip the script in one generation. If everyone just does their little part.
Yeah.
The whole thing can just change course in one generation. And I was like, God, I needed to hear that. Because sometimes I'm like, man, what a mess we've gotten ourselves into.
Yeah. I think, you know what? I think a lot of it is people feel hopeless. A lot of people don't live by the adage of you're planting a seed today so that it's shade for somebody tomorrow. We don't see that, right? A lot of times we want the shade right now. Right. And if we can't get the shade right now, then why plant the seed? But I think if we all, right, if right now we had a conference and all the fathers got together and we said, hey, this is what we're going to do. Right. Look, hey, you've great dad, deadbeat dad, everything in between. This is what we're going to do. And we're going to change the world. And we get together and we put our hands in the middle and we go 1, 2, 3, break. And we all broke out into our lives and did that thing. By the time our children are adults, and obviously our children will be at different ages, and some of them will be older and they start making changes right now. Some will be younger, be making changes throughout their life. The world and the next generation will be completely different.
Wow.
Completely different. Right. If you take it even smaller, like I have a group of guys that are like, I will say my inner circle, like my group of friends, my kids grew up with their kids, our wives all know each other. If we all make a conscious effort to be better than we were, or better, not even better than our fathers, but better than we were yesterday. We all get together and we say, hey, this is what we're going to do. And we do it. Our kids are going to be better than us. Right. Just that's kind of how it works. Right. Usually, I mean, there's ups and downs, but usually like you do a little bit better than the person before you because they've laid out some type of blueprint. Right. Like
you hope so. You hope, unfortunately, it could go. You could be a better criminal, or you could be a better wife beater, or you know what I mean. Like you could repeat it and get even. But I see what you mean. Hopefully, there's some growth.
Yeah, but that's what I'm saying. If we all got together in a conference, no matter where you rank on that good dad, bad dad scale, if we all say, "Hey, you're a bad dad, but this is what we're gonna do," right? You're a great dad, awesome, but this is what we're gonna do, right? No matter where you are on the scale, if we all just did that thing, and I don't know what that thing is, right? And it's because it's so many different things that fatherhood encompasses. But if we all, even if we just say we just really all embrace the fact that we are responsible for another human being's life,
right?
That we hold that life precious and we do everything we can to protect, provide, to teach, to honor that person's life or those people's lives, we could instantly create a world of better people.
Yes.
And the hope is that world of better people will make better decisions for the other people. Right. And that would just continue to expand until we get some kind of utopia, which is, obviously not.
Well, we have to push in the right direction. Yeah.
But we have to work towards it. Yeah.
We live in a really interesting time, and my politics have changed significantly since I've had kids. I was raised in the Bay Area as a liberal. I did all the things that I was supposed to do. Affirmative action, feed the homeless, vote for Hillary and Obama, and then I had kids, and I also spent many years being homeless, and something happened to me after I had kids. And I'm wondering if you've gone through any similar change than that too. And then also to push it even further, I don't know what your thoughts are, if we even have the same definition of what woke is, but do you ever feel that something unhealthy is happening and that the community of black-skinned people are being leveraged in some sort of ideological war that's going on, and how do you manage all that? And if none of that, even if you're like, hey, fuck you, I don't play that game, I'm fine with that too. But because I see your account dude kind of navigating this middle line, and I'm like, man, I wonder what he's, because there's this massive accountable personal responsibility component in yours. Not to play the victim, and then there's this other group that's all that they want to do. Instead of pushing forward with solutions, they're just complaining.
Right. Yeah. I'm very solutions based. Because like I said, I grew up in a tumultuous childhood, and so I've always, and this is why I only had two emotions, is because of sadness and and being the victim never really amounted to anything to me. It didn't help me in any way. But in regards to like politics is such it's like an umbrella. Like it's so large, it's so above the day-to-day stuff that we have to deal with. Not that it doesn't matter, but I think there's so much more focus, and you mentioned it earlier, wasted energy. Is there so much energy that we could use right now, right where we are, right? Like we'll get on social media and we'll complain about the presidency, and we'll talk about big corporation this and big corporation that,
right?
But we have no idea who's on the council in our city or who the mayor is. We don't do anything in the smaller elections. We don't even care about them. We don't even know where they are, right?
Right. I don't know who my mayor is. You fucking nailed it. But I'm bitching about all that other shit all the time. You fucking nailed it. Yep.
And that is the umbrella, right? That is the umbrella that covers the country. But in your immediate area,
right,
if you can't fix your backyard, right? Or not even the backyard. Let's stay in the house. You can't
Your own kids. Yep.
Yeah. If you can't fix what's inside your house, well, damn, the backyard don't matter, right? The backyard only matters to people who are outside looking, right? The people who live inside need the house to be clean, right? And if you aren't taking care of the house, then who cares what the backyard looks like yet right now, right? Eventually, we're going to get to the window. We're going to be looking outside like, oof, we need to cut that grass. That grass sucks out there. Let's go do something about it. But I think we spend so much time throwing that energy out that we don't ever focus it in. And that is a big issue. That is not to say, though, that there aren't problems outside. Like that there aren't things that are going on that definitely need to be fixed, that there aren't wrongs that need to be righted, right? All those things are true, right? And they can be true at the same time. I think there are those of us, though, who are missing our opportunities to do something important in our circle because we're looking outside of the circle. Because politics and politicians are going to always be politics and politicians, no matter who you get voted in, right? No matter who you elect to be into office, you're going to have some complaints because the government isn't for you specifically. It just isn't, right? It's for the whole country. And some people more than others, right? Like if you got a little bit more of a fatter wallet, it's probably a little bit more in your favor. So to put that energy
and you're also a little bit more of a slave. That's the weird part about making money. You end up being the more money you have, the more likely it is you're starting to go down the road of being a sellout. And you'll lie to yourself about it too.
Yeah. Well, you're getting closer to a level where you have a little bit more to say, or people care a little bit more about what you say. And so they want you to say the right things.
Like, look at all these people on social media with these massive accounts. I mean, I had my account taken from me because I had questions about the injection. And I had a blue check mark account with 100,000 followers on Instagram, and they took that shit from me because I had questions. It's like, fuck. Right.
Yeah.
But my peer group stayed quiet, even though I know they have questions too, because they don't want to lose their account.
Right.
And,
right.
They don't want to lose their job. Right.
There's always going to be somebody that has to go out and be the sacrificial lamb, in order to the vanguard of the movement. Right. Someone is always going to push for something. And then they don't get to see it, but somebody else does. Again, planting a seed for shade later on, right? You having questions, we're asking the questions that probably a lot of people had, right? But don't have the leverage or the following or the courage to say it out loud. Right?
Or they don't want to lose their Monster Energy drink sponsorship, or maybe their dad's a doctor and that's how he makes his living. You don't want to fuck that up.
Right. Yeah. These things are very complicated, right?
Or is it more important for you to stay out of that even because you have to stay focused on your message, which is contributing to the world too. You know what I mean? Like, hey, I really have strong feelings about this, but I'm going to push it down. I'm not a sellout, but this message, I can't let this message get derailed.
Yeah. I can speak directly to that in regards to this message. For sure.
Please. Yeah.
So initially with the podcast, Forfeit Fatherhood, the name is whatever, but it was a fatherhood podcast for fathers by fathers. And I say that specifically because For Us by Us is FUBU's. FUBU was a clothing brand. If you're not familiar, FUBU was a clothing brand started by Damon John. Is a black clothing. Let me stop beating around the bush. It's a black clothing brand, right? For Us by Us, right? Forfeit Fatherhood was a podcast for us by us, right? It's for black fathers by black fathers. If you look,
I saw some white dudes on it. I was going to ask you if you let white dudes on your show, but then I saw some white dudes on there.
Yeah. So initially it was because I was experiencing fatherhood for black people in a black community with black children and black fathers. So I needed to address that community, right? Started there. But then as I get more into it, I'm like, man, there's a lot of lessons that can be learned. And if you go further back into the Instagram page, there's not a whole lot of diversity in color. But as I get further into it, fatherhood is so much bigger than just Black fathers in our situations. And we can learn from everyone, right? And so I started first in the house, right? Started working with the ones around me, those that look like me, and those that are experiencing similar situations. And I'm definitely going to always be tied to that, right? I can't get away from it. It's inescapable, right?
Right.
But there are so many other lessons to be learned. And if we truly want to be better as fathers, then we have to get the lessons from anyone, from everyone.
Mhm.
And so even though my mission initially was Black fatherhood, and I can stay in that lane, I can continue to push down that lane. But the reality is if I'm only getting the experiences of the people who look like me, then that's a very short-sighted way to see everything.
Mhm.
I have to be able to rope everything in so we have a comprehensive understanding of what fatherhood means, because there are lessons to be learned from very wealthy fathers, right? There are
Mhm.
lessons to be learned from very poor fathers.
Mhm.
There are lessons to be learned from guys who have great dads, guys who have no dads,
Chinese
from all
dads, Armenian dads, Black dads,
different
Jew dads, get them all.
right, the way that different cultures or different religions parent is important to understand, because there's a lesson in all of it, right? I may not agree with it, and this is something that people on social media struggle with. I may not agree with it, but let me hear it, right? Like, I don't mind having an argument, right? And I don't really even call them arguments. I don't mind having a discussion. I like to have people around me who I don't necessarily agree with, because their opinion, while it may be different than mine, is a valid opinion, and it may help me understand. Like, so it's important to have all of it. So you'll see now that our post is kind of everywhere, right? There's dad lessons from all over the place, because those lessons are important for everyone, no matter who you are. And so, I'm all, again, like I said, at the core of it, look at me. You can't I can't deny the fact. Not even look at me. If you hear me, right, I sound like a Black guy. Like, there's no way around it. But I definitely think that there is some embracing of everything that has to happen in order to be better, do better, for our kids and the next generations.
There's this video. Let me see if I oh, your wife wrote a book, but I don't want to forget about that before I go to this other thing. Your wife wrote a book.
She did.
You must be so proud of her.
Extremely, extremely proud of her. Because
that's no easy endeavor. Isn't that great, being around someone who's creating shit? Like, she said she's pushing the bar, right?
I know.
It's a healthy competition. It's so cool. When I saw that, I was like, oh my God, he's stoked.
Yeah, she did amazing. And it was cool to be there through the process, to the ups and downs, right? Because if you haven't written a book, and I've like messed around and wrote a book, but it wasn't like, not a book. Let me just stop that. There's some
pamphlet.
Tips. Yeah. Let me
a postcard.
It's an ebook that I wrote in a Word document. Like, let me stop. But to see the process that someone goes through to take all of these thoughts and feelings that are in their head and put them to paper and commit to letting the world see those, because we're thinking things all the time, right? And we're guarded with our thoughts, and we keep them in our head and we don't share them. But to put them out there, to be vulnerable and tell your story and try to help other people through your story, is it takes the courage that not a lot of us have. And she's a super humble person. So this was like, I had to fight with her to get this book out. Because she's like, no, she wrote it, but then she's like, now that it's out of my head, I don't want to do anything with it.
Right.
But yeah, it's really, it's good. It's for ladies, but obviously I had an advanced copy. And it's really amazing. Some of the things that she's saying, I read it and I looked at her and I'm like, dude, you're good.
Yeah, awesome. That's why I married you.
Yeah, like, wow, like, this is really good. Like, it's like, and I say it's strong enough for a man, but pH balanced for a woman.
Yeah.
Yo, there is stuff in there that I was like, oh man, I need to do that. I need to start kind of taking some of this advice. And then the other side to it is for guys, who have wives who are experiencing some of these. My wife is she builds mental health programs for school districts. So she goes in, she creates the whole program from scratch, hires all of the employees, builds out all the programming, brings in all the interns. She has a private practice where she works with families and individuals. She is a professor at 2 colleges. She is a mother of 2 kids. She's a wonderful wife. She's an amazing
Overachiever.
She does all of these things, right? And so and a lot of women do a lot of things, right? There's a lot of stuff that they do. And reading this book helped me really understand her as a husband and how I need to allow her the space to be her and not just be my wife or just my kid's mom or just, just whatever box I put her in that day. And I think a lot of us take that for granted with our significant others, that they're just going to be whoever they are. And we don't allow them to move from that.
Right. I'm definitely guilty of that. You put them in a box.
Yeah. And then when they do something outside the box, we're like, what the?
Yeah.
But they're allowed.
Well, it makes you vulnerable too. It makes you vulnerable
right?
too, right? Like I'm sure that book makes you vulnerable also.
Yeah. No, it's really good, man. It's really good. It was good to see her color outside the lines and kind of get outside of all the things that she's doing, and it helped me understand too her journey on self-care, of why she needs to say no sometimes, or why she is the way that she is without assuming, she, you've been my wife and you've done these things for me. Why all of a sudden you don't want to do that no more? Like, what's wrong with you? Like, I'm still doing the stuff that I was doing. Like, why are you changing? Right. And it's a part of it's growth, right? We all should be growing together. We're growing apart. And if, as a husband, as a boyfriend, as a whatever your title is, if you aren't growing with your partner and trying to understand their growth, then you will be growing apart.
The name of the book, for those of you who are listening, most of the people listen to the show and don't watch it, it's called The Power in Choosing, and the author is Ariel Macon-Richard.
Mm-hmm.
The Power in Choosing. You can find it on Amazon.
Yeah, the power in choosing you.
The Power in Choosing You.
No,
it's in the description as well.
Thank you. She's in a very interesting spot working in the school system. Man, I've lost so much faith in the school system. I homeschool my kids. I dare say that I think the system is now exacerbating issues instead of making them better. That they've become codependents of mental health as opposed to helping people navigate towards health. I think they've lost their North Star. Mm-hmm. Unfortunately, I don't know if I saw it on your Instagram account, but they stopped doing lobotomies. You know what that is? They pull off the front of the brain and they fucking chop it up with the butter knife. They stopped doing lobotomies. It was a surgery for psychological issues people had, and they were fucking people up. Right? They were making them retarded.
Yeah.
And that was the last operation that they've ever done in the United States for psychological issues. And now we're back at it again. People have psychological issues. Instead of helping them, we're putting them under the knife. And it's very disturbing to me. Very, 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 very disturbing to me.
Yeah.
We've made it business instead of love. And it's tough. It's tough.
Yeah. I think business, as you described it, business instead of love is definitely what's happening, because there's money. There's money involved. Once you put money into it, and you need money to do things, right? You obviously need money to have these programs and these things.
Well, pharma's voting, I guess. Pharma and medicine are voting with their money, I guess, is what I'm saying. Yeah, you're right. Because you still need money to take them to the gym. But like, I'll just say this for practical reasons. Before you go under a knife for some psychological issue, have you worked out 5 days a week for a whole year? And I know and have you cut sugar out of your diet for just 30 days? As crazy as that may sound to people, I'm 99% sure that's always the solution, at least to create enough space to start working on the problem. If that doesn't fix your problem, it will at least give you enough self-esteem. And what did you say in the beginning of the show? Cultivate self-awareness.
Yeah.
to just tinker with your diet and start moving. But fuck it.
Yeah, no, I think we are always looking for, not we, but society is always looking for that quick fix, right? The magic pill, whatever's going to get us from 30 days no sugar. Oh my God, I'd rather just have surgery.
right.
Yeah, working out for a year. Oh my God.
I'm not even asking you to do a lot. Just go for a walk for 40 minutes, 5 days a week. I'm not asking you to do a lot. Maybe every year, maybe start carrying around a 5-pound weight with you when you walk halfway through the year.
Yeah.
First for your health.
Yeah. No, it's all right. No, thank you.
Don't worry, I'm gonna get this surgery and pop these pills.
Yeah.
I've had you on an hour and 44 minutes. I want to ask you a question. I want to make sure I get out. What do you think about telling Black kids and Jewish kids? I use both examples because I know it's pretty common in those households. Telling those kids that the world is going to be a tough place for you and people are going to treat you differently. My wife was brought up like that, and I know a lot of my Black friends were brought up like that, and I fucking can't stand that shit. No one ever told me when I was 16 that I was going to go to school one day and people were going to start making fun of my nose. I had to find out my own way. All of a sudden, my sophomore year, dudes thought we're making fun of my nose. I went home. I'm like, what are they talking about? And I had to look in the mirror and be like, oh shit, you know. Do you have thoughts on that? Do you tell what are your thoughts? Do you tell your daughters, hey, you're gonna have to work 10 times as hard as the white people to get just half? You know the lecture.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. The talk, right? It's
the talk. And the Jew kids and the Black kids get that talk, and I'm like, why are you putting that fear in them? Like,
so I'm push back on that a little bit.
Okay,
so
please. I think, push back all you want. I'm totally open to push back. Okay.
I think it's honesty. The reality is that there is a stigma to pigment. It's just we can say it isn't real. We can say it doesn't exist, but it's real, and it's a global issue. So to prepare them, just like we would if it was raining outside,
right,
and our kids have on the shorts and a tank top, we may not let them just run outside in shorts and tank top. We may go, hey, look, it's raining outside. You might want to go change.
Damn, you're fucking me up. Metaphors are my game. Damn.
And it's not. And for me, it's a little different, right? Because I'm not saying the world's gonna hate you. No one's gonna like you, and because this isn't the 60s, isn't the 50s. It isn't as in your face as it was in that time. But there is some difference between you and everyone else. I'm not being facetious when I say that. Like, you can look at you and look at everybody else. You look different. So there are going to be some different experiences that you have. Here's what I want to instill in my kids: hard work and a great attitude. Okay. If you work hard and you have a great attitude, most things are going to work out in your favor. They may take longer, but they're going to work out in your favor. I'm not saying that you're not going to experience these things, because you are. I have. My wife has. My family has. These are real things. And so I want to prepare them for reality. But I'm not at the same time saying that this is an excuse for you not to get it done. Right? It is going to be a little bit harder for you, right? Maybe, depending on where you end up. But it doesn't mean that you can't get it done, because people have gotten it done before you.
Right.
So like it's a reality, and I think we do need to prepare our children for it. To say it's a handicap is something different, right? To say that you can't get ahead is something different. I don't know that we live in those times, but those times existed, and those people existed, and they are still around, and there's no denying that fact, right? It's not that long ago that there were separate water fountains. It's really not. It seems like it was a long time ago, but it's really not that long ago.
No, there might be separate ones. It sounds like there might be separate ones again already.
Yeah, so like it's not. Those ideas aren't far-fetched. Right?
I agree.
So
crazy.
It's responsible to let them know that that's there, or you can let them go out and find out on their own, and then hope that you're able to be there to solve it for them. Right? Like, you went out and somebody started talking about, you came back and you worked through that on your own, and you had the strength and the awareness and the mental dexterity to work through that without it crushing you, right? Or deterring you. But if it's and that's that's not a I don't want to devalue that situation, but like let's say my daughter's an engineer, scientist. My daughter loves science, right? She goes to try to get a job as a scientist, and she just keeps getting rejected, right? She makes it to the interview because she's got a pretty normal name, right? Makes it to the interview, but she gets in the interview, she gets rejected. Everything lines up, papers are good, or she went to college, she's done all the things, she's interned, she's done all the things, right? Maybe she sucks at interviewing, right? That's a realistic possibility. So let's get her some interviewing skills, right? We can do all these things. We continue to work uphill to try to figure out all these things until eventually something is left on the table. There's got to be one thing, right? And if that is the color of her skin, I need her to know that that was a possibility going into it, right?
But let me ask you this, Rod. Let me ask you this: why? So if I'm walking down the street, right? If I'm walking down the street and there's a black dude walking to me, and for some reason I cross the street, like I see my friend across the street, right? Or I see, oh shit, the coffee shop's on that side, or I have my headphones in, my iPhone said make a left here, and I cross the street. And the black dude's been told, hey, white people cross the street because they're afraid of you. Then he spins that narrative up, and there was no truth to it.
In that instance,
and that's the shit that kind of like freaks me out. You know what I mean? Like we're spinning up narratives. Now let me tell you something. If it's three dudes coming down the street and their pants are sagging and they're talking loud, it doesn't matter what color they are. If I'm in Berkeley, I'm crossing the street. Oakland, Richmond, I'm crossing the street. Like I got, you know what I mean? Like,
yeah, I know, I get you. I get you 100%.
I feel like crazy as I am, I feel like more than 51% of the stories that I'm hearing are fake. Meaning, the person who was offended, and it doesn't matter what the issue is, was in their head. Obviously, it's gone way beyond black now. Now it's like sex and it's just fucking everyone's got like a story spinning in their head why they're offended, right?
Right. Yeah, everybody's offended. I'm offended. You're offended. We're both offended right now.
Someone needs to write a song.
Yeah, I'm offended. But so in that situation, right? Like you cross the street and he thinks, oh man, he crossed the street because I'm black, and he's white.
Yeah.
What does that turn into though? Like, where does that go from there? Maybe it solidifies.
But someone had to tell him that, right? Someone had to tell him that. Like, you don't come up with that shit on your own.
But someone told him out of. So dang, it's hard. So when we have the talk, right? And this is a I don't know if you've heard that term before, but this is
my wife's Jewish. I'm telling you, the Jew parents do it too. That everyone's out to don't trust anyone. Don't trust anyone.
Here's why they have it, and this is like legacy and tradition, right? It's because at one time it was 100% true, 100% true. At one time in this country, not that long ago, there were sundown towns, and there are still some actually to this day.
What is that? Black people shouldn't be out past sundown?
You could not be out after sundown. If you were caught out after sundown, you were subject to whatever happened to you. Still exist, right? We still have states who have not voted slavery out of legislature.
No shit.
Right? Like this still exists. So it is, and maybe not in that exact term, right? It don't say slave, right?
Right.
So it still exists. People are telling their children these things out of love and out of care for them, right? They want to protect them because in my grandma's lifetime, this was a real thing. In my mom's lifetime, she tells me stories now. She's 65. She tells me stories now about when he went to go visit her family and they couldn't. My grandfather, my mom's dad is Creole. If you saw him today, well, he's gone, but he looks very much like
French and black.
He looks very much like you.
Okay.
Like very like you wouldn't be able to tell that he's black. His mother is black. His father is French, and I don't know where exactly from, but but very, very. You would say he's passing, right? but my grandmother, when they would go visit family, he would go in the front and get the food, and then they would eat in the back because they could not be together. Wow. That's not that long ago.
No,
You know what I mean? And
no,
so
it's not.
these stories and these conversations are happening because it's not that far. It's not that far fetched for that to be a possibility. Those same people who were eating in the front with my grandfather, right, a lot of them are still alive.
Right, right.
Right. And because it's not just old people that were there. There were people of all ages. There were kids there that were living through that, and that was their
Right.
reality. And so those people are the same age as my mom now.
Right.
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 Those people are, if you look at, if you look at
I'm not
people,
saying
like
what
those
you're
people-
saying isn't true. I'm just saying, why teach it? Do you know what I mean by that? Like, I'm not saying it wasn't true that I was going to get a big nose, but like, but like no one told me, hey dude, it's going to be crazy hard for you to get pussy. You're never going to be over 5'5". I'll be like, fuck. Like, no one told me that. I had to learn that on my own.
Okay. Now here's my question for you. Had they
and I
told
apologize
you,
for saying that because you have daughters, but it was just for the impact of the
no,
statement.
no, you're fine.
Yeah,
You're fine. Had they told you that, would you have moved a little differently? Had you been able to get,
maybe I would have taken up sports or something.
Had you had that knowledge ahead of time,
Yeah,
you may have been equipped to do something different, right?
Okay.
Like I don't think anybody's telling their kids these things to damage them or to skew their view of the world. It's more to make them aware of how the world views them.
Right.
Right. And to give them a foundation to jump out off of, right? Because if I know, and again,
But I would have never tried to hit on the tall girls if someone would have told me that. That's the thing, maybe. Or maybe I would have overcompensated. But I didn't learn that till I was in college, till I had a girlfriend. I was hitting on this girl, and one of my, I was fucking 20. And one of my friends is like, dude, you have no chance with her. I'm like, why? He's like, dude, she's like 5 inches taller than you. I was like, what? You know what I mean? That like struck me right in the heart.
Right. But so again, the conversation has to be had. And I don't think that it's not. I think the conversation is had with an understanding of why we're having this conversation. Right. Like I don't remember having.
Okay.
Yeah. I don't remember having it where people were just like, white people are going to hate you. Right. It was like, it was always it was situational, and they're like, this is how you have to overcome that. You can't. All right. So I'm a strength conditioning coach, right? Or still do it, right?
Can be all of them.
Right. So this is how I looked, and I've looked like this for the last 10 years. I'm a pretty nice guy. I'm pretty fun. Like, I'm not like super extrovert, like all in your face like that, right? But there are kids in our gym who are just naturally afraid of me. I look scary. I don't know what that means, right? But I had a kid that trained at our gym for a long time, and then she eventually became one of my personal clients. And she got to college, and she wanted to train with me personally. And I asked her how come she never talked to me when she was younger. She said she was afraid of me because I was a big black guy. Nobody told. Me and her mother have always had good conversation. Me and her dad always had good conversation. So I don't think that they were at home saying that, black people are bad and that, you should be afraid of them.
Right.
She just saw me and big black guy. I'm afraid of him.
That's in the social milieu too, right? Even if your parents don't teach you that, the big black guy is scary, right? Like,
right.
He's the guy in the
reality.
Movies. Yeah.
Right. Yeah. And so when I'm telling my daughters that, it's not because there's a real like boogeyman outside the door that she needs a specific person she needs to be afraid of, but there is some connotation with walking out of this door or out of this house with melanated skin. It just is what it is. And if I don't, just like anything else I would prepare them for, I would be doing them a disservice to not prepare them for that and them to go out into the world and be, because my daughters, I'm doing pretty good. My wife is doing pretty good. That we live in a suburban community. My kids are one or two of the only black kids in their whole school. Really nice neighborhood. And so they don't have to have their head on a swivel like I did in my neighborhood. And so they are kind of walking through life just with their head in the clouds a little bit. And I don't want them to be blindsided by the reality that you are different than everybody else. If I can help you navigate that here versus the world, because the world is not going to be so nice about it. They're not going to explain why someone treated you that way. They're just going to treat you that way, right? And if I can give you a heads up, hey, it might rain today. You might want to take your umbrella. sure, wear the shorts and the t-shirt. Do whatever you want. I know that's what you like. Those are great. Take that out, but hey, just throw your umbrella in your backpack. You never know what's gonna happen.
You're a fucking good dude, Rod. Man, you're a good dude. With a great smile too. There's this. I saw this video, and it's this guy walking out of a building, little white guy, and these people walk by him, and they go and they this is like a year ago during the height of the pandemic, and he's little, and someone said to him, I can't remember. Someone said, "Hey, dude, you need to be fucking wearing a mask." And he goes, "If I was 6'4" and black, you wouldn't have talked to me like that." And it was a fucking great line. I was like, oh shit. I just kind of like the reverse, play on that.
But it's real. And the reason they wouldn't is because there's an innate fear that goes back for centuries. Like you wouldn't talk to them.
Well, that might be a healthy fear too. You shouldn't be taught. You should be careful how you lip off to anyone who's 6'4". I don't know about the black part, but the 6'4" part, you don't be stupid.
Right.
Life's not fair. Don't lip off to someone who's 6'4".
But the black is just the extra seasoning on it,
yes,
right? Like,
yes,
whew,
I agree.
Mess around.
Like there's some insinuation that a black person is more violent than a white person, and which is completely fucking absurd.
There you go.
Yeah. Hey, I really appreciate you coming on. I'm so happy I got to meet you. Who am I to tell you who to have on your show? But James Townsend and that guy Schindeldecker, dude. If you need their contacts, let me know. Both amazing guys doing great things with kids, and I think they're both in your wheelhouse. You have these 4 pillars: faith, family, finance, and fitness. And I think those are like just right down the pipeline with these guys.
Yeah, definitely. I definitely want their information. Like I said, it's comprehensive, right? A father is everything, right? And so I like Jason Wilson has this thing where he talks about manhood being comprehensive, and a man is everything that he needs to be whenever he needs to be it. And that surmises what a man is, because when you ask what's manhood, what's a father, those things, we get all these different answers. And after I read his book, that's what kind of helped push me to including the other fathers, right? Other types of. So it's I definitely would love to have those guys on. Anybody that's doing anything father related that we can talk to and bring on and I actually had somebody who wasn't a father on just recently, just in the process of trying to get to fatherhood. So just trying to broaden the horizons and give dads the best opportunity to be great is where we're at right now.
You said this line in a podcast, and I want to share this with everyone. You said, it's hard to be a bad father if you're a good man. And then you went on to describe a good man as being emotionally sound, financially sound, and physically sound. Mm-hmm. And I was like, wow, that's really good. I want to read that again. It's hard to be a bad father if you're a good man. And boy, that takes a lot of stress off of you if you're worried about being a father. Just worry about being a good dude, a good man. Yeah. And that was really well said.
Yeah, it's hard, man. Like if you're a good guy, just in general, if you're a good man and not a father, not a husband, it's hard for you to do bad things, Right.
You hold the door open for people, someone short $1 at the register in front of you, you pay it for them, just normal shit, right? You call your mom once a day, just like.
Yeah. And then so you take that, right? You take that as your foundation and you put everything else on top of it, right? Like. Yeah. I think that part of it is important, and there's got to be some work done to be better men. As men, we have this flaw of we're wanting to like win Rome in a day, right? But it's not that way, right? It's just a little bit every day, right? We just get a little bit better every day. Percentages, right? Some days are going to be 10%. Some days are going to be my kids just set off the alarm in my house.
They're smoking in the bathroom.
I don't know if they no. So I heard the dog barking in the distance, and I'm like, oh man, this isn't gonna go well. He's gonna come to the office and get me. But he must have went and got them, and they opened the door. But yeah, so the foundation of being a good man makes everything else better, right? Like a rising tide raises all ships. If you're a good man at your core, if you're a good man at your core, you can be a good father. You're a good man at your core, you can be a good husband. That doesn't mean that it's not still going to require you to continue to work, right? Because if you're not working, you're dying. But if you can get there, right? If you can get there to being a good man, you can be a great father.
We are no longer in an era, people, where the experts are the scientists or the people who have the degrees. You have to know that. Anyone who leans on you, anyone in their argument, if they say, well, the scientist said, well, the psychologist said, that's a foul. There's a fallacy there in your argument. You are using authority as some pillar. I'm telling you, this guy, Rod Richard, just the fact that he's immersed himself in this podcast, in this work, is a greater resource than fucking 300 PhDs you'd have in a room at a conference. I really appreciate you coming on. Thanks for continuing to curate that amazing Instagram account. And I'll be watching, and maybe we can circle back around in a year and do it again.
That'd be great, man. Thank you. I really appreciate you opening up your platform and having me.
Oh, dude, my pleasure.
To share the message of fatherhood, to talk to another father is always good, man.
Awesome, dude. All right. Tell your wife congratulations on the book.
I will. Thank you.
I'll see you around.
All right, brother. Have a great one.
Yep. Cheers.
You too, Rob.
Dude, if I had that smile, that would be
It's killer.
Yeah, that would be I would be at the I'd put on another 100 subscribers.
He's a handsome man.
Yeah, good show. Man, there were so many things I wanted to open up. He's good. I enjoyed that.
Me too.
Jay Hartle, good shit. Randy Martin, this is some good stuff. Loving it. Jessica Valenzuela, awesome guest. Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed that. AZZ. I'm catching a live show again, so I listened to this dad and then listened to Candace Owens, and the difference of opinions, his thoughts are very different. His thoughts and the difference of opinion is thoughts.
And Candace's thoughts.
And the difference of I don't understand. How are his kids different from everybody else? Well, let's fucking be realistic. If they're the only two melanated skinned girls at his school, that's in high school. It was Daphne and Andrea. They were the two melanated girls that I fucking went freshman, sophomore, junior, senior school with. Everyone knew them. They were cool, but they were fucking different, and they happened to be friends. And everyone else was fucking either a whitey or a Mexican or a Jewy or whatever. No, people didn't even know what Armenian was. So that's how they're different. I mean, in the most superficial sense, that's how they're different. I'm not going to thank you, Matt. Means a lot to me. Guys, what a great podcast. So glad I listened in. Thank you. All right. These are some of my favorite Sevan casts. Which ones? The ones where I talk to the other people?
Not CrossFitters.
Yeah, nice, Caleb. Nice save. You saved me. Yes, the one where I talk to non-CrossFitters. People still don't get what Armenian is. Yeah, we're the original people. There were black people, and then there were Armenians. The first.
I think you're the only Armenian I know.
Probably. We're in like two places. We're like in Detroit and in Los Angeles and Armenia, 3 places, and Israel. We got a little compound in Israel, a little corner of the city of Jerusalem. Tomorrow morning we have Facundo on. Is Facundo coaching Roman Krennikov? Is he coaching Guy? Is he coaching one of the Panchik brothers? How many people is this guy coaching?
Is he coaching anybody at this point?
Yeah, maybe he's not coaching anybody. How's his relationship with Rich Froning? Will him and Brian Friend start flirting on the show?
These are the hard-hitting questions. Who must ask?
I'm so shaken, by the way. Whoever reported me, you did a really good job. You really fucked me up. Point. You got a point. You win. I'm really shaken. I don't want to have to worry about what I'm saying. Okay, here we go. AZZ, round 2. Sorry. No need to be sorry. Well, okay, I'll accept your apology. Never mind. Their parenting and the ways they see themselves, both black but different perspectives. I didn't catch this till the end, though. Candace Owens is more of denying any treatment differences. Here's the thing. It depends on how absolute you want to get into reality, right? Is Candace denying it? I do like this. I'm pivoting a little bit. I do like the self-responsibility component that this guy is pushing. Hey, it's on you. Clean your own house. Staying away from the bigger picture. It was a trip that his wife was involved in the educational system. We know what a fucking complete disaster. She's in the two biggest disaster zones on the planet right now: mental health and education. I mean, those have been laid to ruin. Anyone who's working in those fields is navigating a minefield, wouldn't you say, Caleb?
Yeah, it's pretty weird.
Good answer.
I haven't worked in a college. I know some people who work in colleges, and it just gets like very particular about like what they're doing.
There's no freedom in any of them. There's no freedom of thought in education or in medicine. It's just, especially
in like liberal arts colleges, they just like you have to take a certain amount of like electives, and those electives are like a list of like 10 different things that nobody really cares to listen to, but because of somebody who gave a bunch of money, they said, hey, this is a class that I want you to host, and it is not something anybody gives a shit about.
There's this college. I cannot believe I can't remember its name. It's a super conservative college. I want to say it's in Michigan. Something Healed, something Shields. Fuck. I can't remember, but I was reading the wiki article on it the other day, and the irony is they refuse to participate in affirmative action. Colleges that participated in affirmative action, even private colleges, were given money, and this college refused to participate in affirmative action because they knew ideologically it was wrong, that it was based in racism. And yet this was the first college in the United States to have melanated students. The irony, right? And it had like the largest number of is it Hillsdale? Is that what it is? Yeah, definitely not California. Is it Hillsdale? Wow, good job, clock cutter. Let me see. Let me check their wiki page. Hillsdale College. Yeah.
Michigan.
Fascinating, right? It's a liberal arts college, but it's crazy conservative. God, man, if you want to send your kids to and get an amazing education, send them there. The people who work, the cast of characters they have there are fucking brilliant. Hillsdale College is a private Christian liberal arts college in Hillsdale, Michigan. It was founded in 1844 by the abolitionists known as Free Will Baptists. Wow, abolitionists. Those are people who are against slavery? Is that what that means?
Yeah, I guess abolitionists, yeah.
Anti-slavery. Oh, the fucking irony. Do you guys fucking see this? It's endless. It's fucking endless. It's endless. It's so obvious. The KKK Democrats, the Lincoln Republican, against who voted against the Civil Rights Act, the Democrat. It's so obvious. This is a fucking Christian conservative fucking college. Doesn't participate in any of the woke shit, and it's an abolitionist college. Like endless, like. In August 1844, members of the local community of Free Will Baptist resolved to organize their denomination's first college institution. After gathering donations, they established Michigan Central College in Spring Arbor, Michigan. Wow, Hillsdale College. This is I don't know if you want to read something cool and learn something. College is still around. Conservative liberal arts college. Almost sounds like a fucking oxymoron, right?
They almost have $1 billion endowment. $900 million.
Yeah, they didn't have to participate in the racist experiment that all the fucking liberal schools in California did.
That's crazy.
Okay. So tomorrow we have Facundo on. Then at 9 a.m. after Brian and I dance with Facundo for an hour, we will, or I'm going to go over to Coffee Pods and Wads and chat with my friend Pedro. Yeah, only 70 people on. Hey, dude, that's fucking great for me. I'm ecstatic. I'm not canceled. Everyone tell 5 friends they need to listen to this show. See you guys tomorrow.
Bye.
Bye-bye.